Welcome to the Marvel Alliance podcast, where we cover anything and everything to do with the Marvel Universe. From the comics, TV, and movies, we will go from Earth 616 to the Mojoverse to the TVA in order to bring the Marvel Universe right to you. I'm the man without fear, Chris.
I am the nerd with the mouth, David.
Alliance Assemble.
Simple.
Volume 220, and as promised last week, Brent is gone. Brent is gone for 3 weeks. He is taking a very much deserved extended vacation, but we are not here alone. As you heard the voice, we have the one of the co-hosts from Geek versus the Gimmick, David. So I know David is not a stranger to the show. He has subbed in for either Brent or myself a number of times. So happy to have you back, David.
Happy to be back. Always a pleasure. Always a pleasure. Love doing the show.
It's great, and I have been enjoying you guys' new venture on Geekverse with S Bubs and Mr. Snell, the Gimmick at that point. So for those of you who don't know what the Gimmick is, why don't you give it a little plug?
The Gimmick is our monthly wrestling show where we run down WWE, AEW, a couple of other promotions, just everything going on in the news. We review different shows. We're going to be having a show coming up this weekend where we're going to be going into what's going on with Forbidden Door, Royal Rumble news, things like that. So it's a show where we just talk a whole lot of wrestling. So if wrestling's your thing, if you're into wrestling, past, present, future, what's going on, then come see us. We're about to do our second version of our draft where we pick some people. We pick 9 good wrestlers and then 1 gimmick wrestler where we decide as the year goes along. We get points for who wins, who has title defenses, everything else. And then for our bad wrestler or our jobber in wrestling terms, you get points for who takes a loss and things like that. So it's all fun. We talk wrestling, we nerd out. If you see the wrestling belt in the background and everything else like that, that's my wheelhouse. Marvel and wrestling are just pretty much where I live.
Yeah, I've got a wrestling belt myself. It's a modified. It's been a modified Intercontinental Champion, but it says a Turkey Bowling Champion, and it's exactly the way it sounds. We take a turkey
Nice.
and we bowl it during the winter at that point, and I've been the reigning champion because we haven't had a rematch of it since before COVID. So I guess when I dominated that one, nobody wanted to face me down, so I keep it with pride. So
Scared all the competition. You are the Thanos of Turkey Bowl.
yes, I'm the Thanos of turkey bowling. But no, your show definitely keeps me up to date. I definitely do not watch as much anymore, but I look forward to your show because it keeps me up to date outside of what my social feeds do. So give it a check out. Subscribe to the Geekverse Podcast Network, and you will see it drop in the feed. So again, give that a listen. But yeah, how's been your week going?
Week has been busy but good. Like I was telling you off air, I literally just found out within the last couple of hours that I got a promotion. So it's been a couple of, I will say legitimately it's been a couple of months in the making, but more like it's been 3 years in the making of me pushing for this to happen. And then it came to fruition a couple of months ago. And then it finally came to pass on today about 4:30. So
Excellent. Well, congratulations. What a way to celebrate with us here at Marvel Alliance. So that is
Exactly.
awesome, great news. Yeah, I've been on a work trip since Sunday. Went down to Florida for the Model Schools Conference with a number of members from my county. A lot of good stuff. Picked up a couple of things I want to try out at my school this year. Took a quick visit to Epcot with some of my colleagues at that point, and just had a good time. So got back yesterday morning, and yeah, back at it, and getting ready for the next school year. Imagine that, end of June, I'm already getting ready for the next school year. That's how education
already
works,
looking
right?
ahead.
Yep, already looking ahead. So, but yeah, we had some a little bit of news dropping this week, thanks to Mr. Feige dropping some tea. But before we get into all that, we'll give you the network plug. So we are part of the Geek Ultimate Alliance network with 7 shows covering the wide range of geek and nerdom. To see the full schedule, check out the show notes below and subscribe to the Geek Ultimate Alliance network on Twitter at GUAPod Network so you know when all the shows drop. We also have a Patreon, so if you want to throw a couple of shekels our way, we've got 2 tiers. We've got our dollar tiers or tip jar to say, hey, you think we're doing a good job? And then we've we've got our $5 tier with ad-free episodes, early access episodes, and Patreon exclusive shows. Marvel Alliance, we have 2 shows on there. Our very first Patreon show, We Can Watch This All Day, the Marvel Alliance Infinity Saga rewatch, which we watch all 24 movies that are counted in the Infinity Saga. And now we are on to our second show, Tales from the House of X, where we are watching all of our favorite movies from the Fox X-Men era. We've got 4 shows already on there: Deadpool, Deadpool 2, The Wolverine, and Logan, which dropped on Monday. So hope patrons, you've enjoyed that. If you have not listened to it yet, it is on the Patreon, but wanted to bring it up here. Brent and I, due to our respective travel plans for July, we will not be recording our next episode until August, which will be the original X-Men movie. So that'll be happening in August. So again, no new Patreon episode this month. But new ones will be coming back in August. So stay tuned for that. But we've got the DC Alliance guys doing their DC film through the years. We've got Joe doing his Disney deep dives, looking at the history of Disney animation. He drops those on the 1st and 15th. So the next one will be coming up. Looks to be on Monday. And yeah, a lot of back content on the feed. So we want to thank our patrons. We can't do this without your support. But if you're not a member of our Patreon, please go to www.patreon.com/GUA network so you can join our Patreon. And last but certainly not least, we want to thank our official sponsor, OrganicPriceBooks.com, for your omnibus hardcover collected edition needs. JP and the crew at OPB have got it going on with excellent customer service, immaculate packaging, ships around the world. Buy books in order to earn points, to earn discounts on books. We've got a new final order pre-orders going on. We've got the Secret Wars Battle World Omnibus Volume 1, all the miniseries from the Secret Wars Battle Worlds coming at you. Daredevil by Bendis and Malieve Omnibus Volume 2, another printing of that coming back. Let's see what else we've got. It's a light month for Marvel. I know next month is going to be big. They got like 4 or 5 different Omni new collections coming at you. But use that code MARVELGUA at checkout to get $2 off every single order. Use it in a limited amount of times, and lets them know you are you are a listener, and we want to thank them for being our official sponsor. All right. Yeah, I did just actually get in. I haven't opened this back, but I did open this the other day from OPB. The Punisher Max, Volume 1. This has come back into print. It has been out of print for a very long time from the Max line. Definitely can't find this on... you won't find this on Marvel Unlimited.
Yeah.
It is quite for the mature rating, but Garth Ennis is one of my favorite writers, and his Punisher run is definitely unmatched in my opinion since his creation. So
That's one of my favorite versions of the Punisher, actually. So yeah, it was such an incredible run.
Very much, and Garth Ennis can definitely do it. Let's see what we got in the chat. We've got Julio in the chat. It is cool that Marvel launched her official Marvel podcast. Well, guess what? Julio will be talking about that in just a few seconds. And Fifth of Jack Gaming, I picked that exact same book up. Oh, well, Fifth of Jack. Definitely, the question is, which cover did you get? Because that's the DM cover at that point. Which cover did you pick up? So, but yeah, let us get into that exactly. Julio must have been looking at our show notes. So yeah, so Marvel Studios had dropped their very first episode of their official podcast. I think it's titled the Official Marvel Podcast, and it's... Why not? Your first episode, it's from Marvel Studios, so yeah, you've got access to Kevin Feige, so why not have him join you for the first one? So he dropped a number of items of tea. First up is the Fantastic Four. So he talked about some details on the upcoming film. He did confirm some interesting things though. He said that it is a period film. And there was another piece of art that we released of Johnny Storm flying in the air, making a 4 symbol, which we'll pull up in just a second. And there was a cityscape in that image. There was a lot of smart people who noticed that cityscape does not look exactly like the New York that we know or the New York that existed in the 60s. Those are very smart observations, is what I will say. So let's pull that up to see what he's talking about. So yeah, he's right. It's very, very futuristic at that point. and we can kind of
Yeah,
see if I
the
can.
the skyline, the differences in the building, very Meet the Jetsons feel of that.
Yeah, it's almost like taking what the '60s had hoped the future would be, and put it actually. So the reality of their 1960s is going to be even more futuristic than the mainline 616 universe.
Yeah,
So I did like that. So we've got a confirmation. It is period. It is 1960s. Even though he never said this is an alternative universe. I think we're gonna have to try to read between the lines of what he's saying. What do you think, David?
I definitely agree. When he was speaking in that, and if you haven't listened to the podcast, go listen to it again. It's the official Marvel podcast. It's available wherever you get your podcast from. This first episode is 30 minutes. About the first half of it is dedicated to Kevin Feige and what he's having to say about the state of Marvel and what's coming up. So it is a great listen. But yeah, he leaves a lot of definite indefinites. So he confirms some things with leaving himself some wiggle room that you can't say, "Hey, you said this exact thing was going to happen." He gives some overtures that are just like, "Hey, this is what I said. We can make this happen." But it does give hope that this is going to be a good film. He mentions the TVA. He mentions the fact that they are going to play a big part in Deadpool and Wolverine, and that they will help usher in where they're going with Fantastic Four. So he doesn't exactly say, "Hey, this is Earth, 1690, or this is the Ultimate Universe," or anything else like that. But it does allude to, we have some wiggle room with this to play around and have fun with this 60s period piece.
Yeah, like Julio in the chat says the Jetsons song is playing in my head. Yeah, I mean, just by that looking at that point. And the other thing that we can, me personally, full disclosure, Fantastic Four, I wouldn't say they're not necessarily the one team I've looked at. Oh, I know everything about. I know enough to be dangerous. They're definitely not the team that I follow. I mean, X-Men #1 in my book. They're the team I follow next to the Avengers. But enough of storylines have kept me enough abreast of all their history, read enough about them, saw enough, and they are very intriguing. But with this idea that, reading between the lines, taking the wink, wink, nudge, nudge from Feige, that this is potentially in an alternative universe. Well, there's no history then. We don't have to, you don't, for a general audience member, they don't have to watch the entire Infinity Saga. They don't necessarily need to watch Loki. They don't need to watch other Disney shows. Like, they could go into this potentially and not have to worry about anything else.
Yeah, and I think that's a perfect for where we are right now with the MCU, and a good chunk of the audience saying that they've been burnt out on the MCU. Having a free jumping on point where you don't need to know the backstory of the Fantastic Four, because I'm the same. You ask me about the Fantastic Four, I can tell you overall history. I can tell you who's in the Fantastic Four. I can tell you a couple of people who've been substitutes to the Fantastic Four. I can tell you Reed Richards is a narcissist, and I can tell you whenever Johnny Storm shows up, it's going to be a good time. Past that, like, don't ask me about specific, "Hey, have you read Fantastic Four issue 212? I'm going to look at you in your face and say no. But
With full confidence.
Yes, I know enough of the characters and the stories and where they've been in overarching stories, where they've been in Secret Wars, where they've been in other major stories, to give you enough of the Fantastic Four. And I think that this film is going to do the same. They're going to give you enough that if you aren't in the know, you don't need to know.
He also, Mr. Feige went on and talked about how the director, Matt Shakman, has already moved to London, and we start filming at the end of July. Funny story, we start shooting the Monday after Comic-Con. We start filming the day after on Fantastic Four. And he continued saying, "I'm extremely excited because those characters are mainstays, are legendary pillars of the Marvel Universe, and we've never gotten to play with or explore in any significant way apart from Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness and a few teases before. In the way we're doing this in that film, so I'm extremely excited. I'm with him on that one. Emma, even though I'm not a like lover of the Fantastic Four, there's a reason they're called the first family of Marvel Comics. They've always come, even though they've been times where they've had some not so great runs. Sometimes they've had deaths in there. I'm intrigued to finally see what the MCU can do with Fantastic Four, and especially with the cast. The cast alone they definitely were making sure to get the either the best of the best or the ones who are up and coming or would have a name. But there are a lot of rumors still going around of like where are they going to be in their relationship. How are they going to portray this? Are they already going to be the Fantastic Four at that point with the superpowers? Or are we going to get the standard, we're going to see them before, then get powers, another origin story? I would like to hope that they've learned a lot in the last couple of years, and we don't necessarily need to have the standard origin story for the superheroes. I would like to see them make a kind of a switch on that one and maybe see that they're already empowered. We get a little enough of the what happened at that point without necessarily having to go down and spend a half an hour getting to know them.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, and considering who they have in the cast, I mean, you have Pedro Pascal, so he's not playing a young Reed Richards. I mean, Pedro looks, older, more mature at this point. Yes, with Joseph Quinn, who has played a straight out of high school person with Stranger Things and can play that late teens, early 20s role, but he can also play a more early 30s role, something more suitable to his age. I believe he's 30. Joseph Quinn is 30 in real life, so he can play that role. So we can have them who have already developed and gotten their powers and have dipped their toes into it. We don't have to have the superhero origins. And Spider-Man proved you don't have to have the origin film to have a good Marvel superhero film.
Julio in the chat saying the only one that they have read is Ryan North F4, and Fifth Jackson, the only one they've read is from Hickman, and scratch the itch for them. Yeah, I mean, Hickman, Mark Waid's run is another fan favorite at that point, and those would be kind of the two go-tos I would always see and recommend for a number of people. You have Mark Miller's run that also has some fun powers within that. So some good stuff you can kind of look at and check out on Marvel Unlimited or check out the collected editions. But yeah, so it was nice to kind of hear some things that where we get those confirmations of the 60s, possibly an alternative universe, and that when they're starting to shoot day after Comic-Con. So, as we're getting ready to head into a next story in a little bit, we'll kind of keep that in mind, saying, like, what are we possibly going to get from Marvel Studios at Comic-Con? So, there he is. He couldn't stay away, And, yeah, that is Brent in the chat saying, thanks for filling in, David. Have a great show. Yes, go back and enjoy your vacation, Brent. You get a chance to be a listener for a couple of weeks, so you can enjoy that.
It's 3:30 your time. You are going out and having a blast.
Yes, so... but all right, well, let's take our first ad break before we get into the rest of what Mr. Feige said. So, listeners, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud, so give it a 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right, so he spent a little bit of time talking about, and the first time we've heard any kind of official discussions about Wonder Man. So Wonder Man has officially been addressed by Mr. Feige. For those that do not remember or did not know there was a Wonder Man show being done, it is starring Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. and will be a Disney Plus series. So on the official Marvel podcast, Kevin Feige said Wonder Man will be extremely different. He said the Marvel is the house of ideas. It's always been the house of ideas, and I hope will always be the house of ideas, which means taking new storylines and new characters to new places. Sometimes they'll hit, and sometimes they won't. Feige moves when you stop trying and is when you have atrophy and the whole thing will fall in on itself. I think it's trying to tell unique stories in different ways. We have a show that's coming up that we've talked very little about called Wonder Man, and I won't talk about it much today, except to say it's extremely different than what we've ever done before. So that is again, he's not going to say too much about it, but what he does say is enough there to, give us pause to say like, what does he mean by that?
I am very excited that he brought this up. First of all, I love Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. He is a phenomenal actor. For those who don't know who he is, Black Manta from Aquaman. He was also Dr. Manhattan, spoilers, in the Watchmen TV show. He was in the movie Candyman and some other things. He is a phenomenal actor, and I can't wait to see what he brings to this role, especially considering the character of Simon Williams, who is Wonder Man, and what he does for a quote unquote living and how they make this happen. So I'm excited that we finally got some true confirmation that this is still going forward and that it is something that they are excited about.
Yeah, what we've kind of Scooper Madness has said, it sounds to be another dip in Marvel Studios going into possibly leaning towards a comedy. We saw that with She-Hulk, and I enjoyed She-Hulk. I thought it was a lot of fun. Some episodes better than others, but I think all in all, yes, I you can call me definitely a fan of the show. How about you, David?
I am a huge fan of She-Hulk for multiple reasons. A, the Daredevil connection, and B, I love Pug because I am a shoe guy. Brent will tell you. I have
Okay.
29 pairs of shoes. So, one to rock, one to stock, like that whole thing is just, that's me all the way. So when that line dropped, Brent texted me that morning with that line, and I just knew, I'm like, another shoe guy. So I liked it. I like the comedic shows because I don't think that you can go too dark with everything. And that's okay. That's okay to have that duality. I mean, we had Moon Knight, which had a very dark tone, which hit on some very hard subjects, with Moon Knight himself, with the duality, with the split personalities and everything else like that. I think it's okay to have those lighter shows and those shows that aren't necessarily where we're getting deep, dark. We're putting that darker filter on our frame rate and everything else on every show. It also creates a good point for the casual viewer to come in. And at the end of the day, we want those casual viewers. I mean, as a fan of comic books and as a fan of comic book movies, I understand truly that those casual viewers bring in revenue. Those casual viewers bring in revenue that helps finance the next show, the next movie, that keeps this train going. So we can't all be, oh, well, this isn't dark, gloomy. This isn't my MCU. No, I'm all for the comedy aspect. I'm all for the differences in show styles because it brings in different viewers.
Hashtag not my not my show. Yeah, it even if what I do know from the comics of Simon Williams, aka Wonder Man, he is a Hollywood actor that uses his abilities to get him fame and fortune. And so it'll be an interesting look to see exactly that kind of hero if they're going to go down that road, which from what we understand and from what my sources have told me, yeah, that's kind of the route they are going down. The question is he going to have that connection to a certain, according to some sources, a recently deceased witch.
Yeah. Uh, how are those brainwaves going to work beyond this show? Are we going to touch on that on this show? Is it going to be a post credits teaser at the end of the show? Because he has a very big and solid connection to two strong foundational characters of the MCU
Hmm.
and how their story is going to progress. So that will be interesting to see how they handle that.
Yeah, so we'll see. But again, nice to see. Out of all the things you could have talked about, wasn't expecting Wonder Man, but it's nice to get some sort of mention regarding that. And lastly, we do have in a couple of weeks a certain the only MCU movie for the year, and a heck of a one at that point. Deadpool and Wolverine. He had a few lines to say about it, saying, "I hope the film is going to be amazing example as to how you can still surprise people with characters that they've seen many times before, and say goodbye to once." It's very exciting to see how we can continue with the same actors in new incarnations, which is great. And I think it's a peek into the future as we continue to bring these comic book stories to life. So, within that idea, as people have been so getting it a tizzy about ever since he was announced returning as Hugh Jackman coming back as Wolverine, the biggest thing is, oh, I don't want him to come back. He had such a great send off as Logan. Well, you heard it here from Mr. Feige himself that we can basically assume, and we've been told so many different times by so many different people, this is a Wolverine, this is Logan, but this is not a Logan that we have personally seen before in the Fox X-Men universe.
Yeah. And for listeners, if you go and listen to the Patreon show of Logan, great insight into the character and great insight into that movie and everyone's feelings on that. I mean, Logan ended on a great note.
Mm-hmm.
Logan ended
Maybe not
on,
for him. Maybe not for him.
but for the character, it was such a good crescendo of the character arc from where we built up over multiple X-Men movies to, well, technically 3 Wolverine movies, even though one of them I shudder to watch. But we had multiple X-Men movies, multiple Wolverine standalone movies. It was a good crescendo for the character.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this allows you a chance to see a character that you love and have a connection with that does not tarnish the legacy and the feeling of how Logan ended. You can enjoy both, and that is a good thing about this movie. And I know both Hugh Jackman and Ryan Reynolds love and respect these characters enough that this isn't just I needed a payday, so I'm going to suit up again.
Yeah. Julio saying in the chat, it's good thing they have the Marvel Spotlight banner. Yep, that is good as well. And he's also chiming in saying Sean and Ryan was about to tell Kevin that that they no story until Hugh calls in. Oh yeah, they, yeah, he wanted it, and again, Hugh Jackman's gone on record a number of times within the last 6-7 months saying that he was truthful in the sense of wanting to hang it up after Logan, but after seeing the success of Deadpool and how close he and Ryan had gotten over the years, that this would be the only way he would come back, and I'm glad to see it. And I don't think it's a stretch, me saying and putting my money on this will also not be the last time we'll see Hugh Jackman don the yellow and blue spandex past this movie. So that's at least my hope. But yeah, so check out, again, we kind of talked about it here, but check out the the official Marvel podcast next week. They have Brad Winderbaum joining them talking about Marvel Television. So it'll be interesting to see what interesting news that he drops, because he has been very famous in the last year to drop a lot of surprising information for someone as high up as he is. He's trying. I think he's trying to go toe to toe with Mr. James Gunn at DC.
Yeah. I was pleasantly surprised with the amount of information that Kevin Feige dropped. So they are really setting the tone that this Marvel podcast is not going to be fluff pieces. This is going to be something that you're going to want to listen to if you want the insider scoop of information to come.
Yep, exactly. So check that out. It's all on all the podcast feeds that you can get. And then yesterday, or 2 days ago, if you're listening to this on Friday morning, we've been wondering, we've been thinking, the strikes are over. Last year was a true return to SDCC in a true comic book fashion, but this year doesn't look like it at this point because Marvel Studios has officially confirmed that they are returning to Hall H at SDCC. So they will be coming back to it those couple of days. And traditionally, the penultimate day of SDCC is dedicated to Marvel Studios. The presentation in the late afternoon. Comic-Con will run from July 25th to the 28th, which is the same weekend of Deadpool and Wolverine. Note that the studio was present at last year's with a trade floor booth, a comic book panel, and autographs from distinguished writers and artists, but the Hollywood part of it was not. And so, like I said, Deadpool and Wolverine will be premiering that weekend. Marvel Studios plans for SDCC go down to the wire with never-before-seen clips and with polished-up music and VFX. There is actually no official word on what they will be. A lot of scoopers have started jumping out and jumping on what could possibly be happening. The exhibitor at CinemaCon have already gotten the first look at Anthony Mackie and Captain America Brave New World, dated for February of next year. So let's kind of think about like what we could possibly see. My guess is we do have a scooper. I think it's Daniel RPK. Again, he can kind of be sometimes get some things very right and sometimes some things very wrong. He is putting out there right now that possibly we're going to get a separation of what's being presented at the con this year, looking at maybe that. No, excuse me. This is not Daniel RPG. This is actually another scooper who I refuse to name at that point, but I will say it does rhyme with a famous other director that I have much more of a higher opinion on. He had said that supposedly the films will be the focus of SDCC, and the D23 will be the television side. So let's go on with that idea, David. What do you think they're going to do? Do you think, are we going to get a slate? Are we going to get a new slate? Are we going to get a couple of first looks? What do you think?
I think we're going to get two first looks, Captain America Brave New World and Thunderbolts by this point.
We got to say it right. Thunderbolts with an asterisk. Thunderbolts asterisk.
They have wrapped principal photography by this point, so there is enough to at least give you some teasers. Not necessarily anything I think Captain America Brave New World is going to have more of a showing than Thunderbolts. I think Thunderbolts is going to be the one that the Hall H sees, but we never see. I think Captain America Brave New World is the one that everyone is going to see, and then we're going to see either after Comic-Con or, within like the following week or so after Comic-Con. But I think Thunderbolts is going to be that one that's going to be the stuff of legend. This is what we saw. We're going to see the fan footage and someone who recorded on their cell phone. But I think Brave New World is going to be the public-facing one. Thunderbolts is going to be the teaser. I've gone back and forth whether they're going to address the King Dynasty or not and what they're doing with that. And I've settled on, I don't think that this is the time that they're going to comment on the King Dynasty. I think they're going to focus more on their direct upcoming projects and then handle the King Dynasty later. I think they're going to let this simmer a little bit more before they address it.
Yeah, Marvel, if we're going to hold to the same idea that the next Avengers movie is going to be filming sometime next year. So that is what, again, Scooper Madness would like you to have you believe. He has not officially confirmed anything about it outside of on the podcast saying that the next two Avengers movie are the ones he is looking the most forward to. I would agree with you. I think Captain America: Brave New World and Thunderbolts with an Asterisk will probably be the main projects. A new slate, maybe. I I think we're gonna get some idea of what for the next maybe year ish. I don't think we're gonna get. I if we're to be believed that Iger says and Feige we're gonna be pulling back on being a little bit better with our content. It's I could see us maybe getting the next year and a half of kind of playing things out, but out of footage, I'm with you that we may probably get the big thing we're going to get publicly is Captain America: Brave New World. I still will hold on to my prediction that we still, even if we see that trailer, we will still have no idea who the new Avengers are.
Yes.
Julio asking us in the chat saying that you think Marvel Studios is taking a risk in making a Thunderbolt asterisk movie. Here's where I think I can understand where you're coming from in the sense of a risk, in the sense of who the team is. And people can easily just say that, oh, they're Marvel's version of Suicide Squad. Okay, you're not wrong, but that's a very simple and kind of a trolley way to kind of think about it at this point. I think there's a reason behind Thunderbolts with an asterisk. I could, even though everyone kind of makes fun of, oh, there's not many superpowers on there. They're all just enhanced people with strengths at that point. That asterisk is going to have a meaning. Even Kevin Feige said it's there for a reason. We're just not going to talk about it until after the movie is premiered. It very much could change over into the Dark Avengers.
Yeah. I mean, and before Thunderbolts with an asterisk premieres, there's other projects, there's other things coming out. So I just going off of Marvel Studios track records, they're going to set up that this is a must watch event. This isn't going to be just a here's another thing to hold you over. They're going to set up some seeds that say, hey, all right, you've seen Captain America: Brave New World. You need to now go see Thunderbolts after this, even if it's for one character or one scene that's hinted at or whatever else. Like they're going to leave you with a reason to watch it. So, are they taking a risk with these characters? Yes, but they've taken a risk with a lot of characters. I mean, realistically, Iron Man was a risk.
Yeah,
Thor was a risk.
They were not how. I mean, again, Iron Man at the time, Iron Man, Thor, they were not a list. They were not.
Yeah.
They say what you want about them, they weren't, and that's what Marvel had. Marvel sold those. Again, they even made when Iron Man came out, that still wasn't fully under Marvel Studios. That was a production with Paramount, so they had to use what they had. They didn't have quote unquote the A list. They didn't have the X-Men at that time, so they've had that track record of doing well, until recent events. And when you have someone with the star power of Florence Pugh just as your headliner, I would like to think again, Sebastian Stan, great actor, has been able to hold his own at that point, doing good with an ensemble. Out of all the characters that are part of the Thunderbolts, yeah, Florence Pugh is probably the one you can say that you would be able to hold her own movie. However, she's leading this movie, and I'm very intrigued to see exactly what they're going to do, and that's what it is. From what we understood of the original plan for this movie, this was going to close out this phase. I don't know if that is still the plan for this. Is this going to be the final film in this phase? I don't know.
Yeah, we have to think back to the fact that Captain America, the first Captain America, was a period piece with a comedic actor, and look what it did. So we have to have a little bit of faith that they can do something with these characters. And you're not bringing in new characters per se. You're bringing in some established people. Florence Pugh is going to do amazing. Sebastian Stan has proved that he can hold his own. Has been doing amazing in multiple movies and in TV shows. You're tying things together with Ghost. You're tying things together with the Patriot and just all these other characters that they have established before. So, given that opportunity to do more with it, and given the other actors who are in it who are going to do well with it, I mean, you're going to assumably go from Captain America Brave New World and Harrison Ford and flow into the Thunderbolts. So that's a big name that I would assume would be in and a part of this movie and bring in a lot of viewers.
Yeah, as Julia is saying, Thunderbolts is kicking off the summer release in the first week of May. So, that was the original plan for it to close it out. Doesn't sound like it as much anymore considering where it's releasing. So it could be kicking off and understanding about where we're heading to in the future at that point. I'm very curious to see, as things have shifted, as ideas of plans of how does this phase end off? Because to be frankly honest, this phase has been a mess.
Yes.
And it's saying that this was supposed to be the kickoff of the multiverse saga. It hasn't been good. It has not been the best phase. It has been probably the most disjointed phase.
I would definitely agree with there has been multiple factors that have curtailed this phase from what it could and should have been.
Yes, but again, we'll see what SDC. The next question I've already gotten from a few listeners is, how are we covering Comic-Con now that we have the confirmation that Marvel is coming back? Again, that's going to be the weekend that we're reviewing Deadpool and Wolverine, that Friday night when it comes out. We're probably going to have to talk with our brethren over at Geekverse, because the last Comic-Con, the most recent one we did with them as a kind of a live stream, so probably a possibility of that. We're just going to have to talk with them and see what we can get going on, so stay tuned with those plans. But all right, so that is all the news that is fit to talk about this week. So we're going to take our final ad break before we get into feedback and fact or fiction. So listeners, these ads help keep the lights on the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network. We don't get to choose what ads come on, and they can be a bit loud. Give it that 3 count before they come on. 3, 2, 1. We'll be right back. And we are back. All right. So without Brent here, I had to put out the Spidey signal, and thankfully I remembered that when it happened. And listeners, you never disappoint. You came in and got some questions for us. So starting off with Anthony Dorsey, who I had the great pleasure of meeting at Heroes Con a few weeks ago. So glad to see you're doing well and put a name with a face. First time I've ever met a listener in person. So all right, Anthony's asking, since Marvel will be at Hall H, do you think they'll announce some stuff taken off and added to the slate, or just teasers for next year's movies? Also, will they announce anything with X-Men? So, as we kind of talked about, what do you think? And we've talked about the things that we're pretty confident they're going to do stuff about. Do you think they're going to talk about anything do you think they'll acknowledge anything not being on the schedule? Personally, I don't. I think they will quietly, that will not be the stage to talk about things that are never going to be happening. They want to keep it as positive as possible. What do you think?
I think that they are going to lean into the rah, let's go Marvel aspect of it. So I don't think that this being the fact that Feige is heralding as their return to Hall H, even though they did not take that much time off. It's not like you've had a 10-year hiatus from this. But I do feel like they are going to come out with all the positives. They're going to be coming out with the for sures. They're going to be coming out with this is what we already have in production. I think this is going to be less of this is what the future entails and more of this is what we already have. This is what the gears are working for right now. And that is going to be their focus. To answer the question of will they announce anything X-Men, I think X-Men is going to wait for D23, because I think the only X-Men announcement will probably be another season of X-Men 97. I don't think they're going to jump into anything live action yet. And the reason I say that is because I have a feeling that the more of an aspect of the live action X-Men is not going to appear until Fantastic Four or until one of these further movies. You don't want to put that out there already. If that's your post credits or if that's your big thing, like with the Marvels and the post credit scene there, like you don't want to say, hey, yep, they're coming back, and then everyone knows to start looking for this. You want that shock and awe factor. So if you're going to use them in a live action, you're not going to spoil that with a throwaway, well, they're going to be in a post credit scene. And I don't think soon it's too soon to have something fully built out for them. So I think that they hold off on that. Yes, they'll announce it, more of what's going on with the continuing X-Men 97 and how great that is. But as far as Hall H, it's going to be a rah-rah. Look what we definitively have in the books.
Yeah. I'm with you on that one. I think that they're not going to say anything about the future of X-Men at this time. I think everything we've gotten is unofficially from the trades about the writer. There's been recent rumors that the quote-unquote team that the writer of the X-Men film is basically going to mirror the X-Men 97 team. Doesn't mean that they're going to be the same team. It's just in the sense of the characters are going to be what the pitch was focused on. So we'll have to see about that. But I think X-Men is going to have to wait until we get closer to the end of Phase 6. I really think that we're going to be waiting a bit for official word coming from Marvel Studios, especially at an SDCC.
Yeah, and even if there's a post-credit scene, maybe in Deadpool and Wolverine, Marvel is very big on keeping your mouth shut when it comes to new movies. And the fact that this is happening at the same time, they're not going to want to spoil that with a, hey, this movie is releasing this week, but we're already letting you know, go find out about the X-Men and things like that. They're very big on enjoying the movie-going experience when it comes to that. And so even if there is some future talk of the X-Men, or even if they are showing up again, I don't think that they are going to announce anything right now.
Yeah, it's just we're getting these hints, but it's going to be one of those kind of wait and see. Let's see, anything else with that I want to think about? We were definitely going to see some. If we're to believe that it's going to be focused on the films, I think we're going to get maybe one or two new announcements that were not part of anything that we had originally heard of. I think we could get possibly one or two.
Yeah. I have a feeling that we may get some new logos, some new titles, but nothing solid. We're not going to have the let's parade Gambit out on stage with the rest of the X-Men type situation. There's not, Channing Tatum's not coming out for this one.
And we're not going to hear anything about Spider-Man 4. That is not what Spider-Man has been since it's been a kind of a Sony thing. They're going to do their own official stuff, but it will not be at SDCC under the Marvel panel.
Yeah.
Next up, we got Philip Barker. How does it feel to finally have the words Wonder Man come out of Kevin Feige's mouth and confirm that it is in fact still a thing and happening? I think we both, as we said earlier, we're happy to know officially coming from his mouth that despite Stetsoto's no denial that it is happening. Also, how excited are you guys at the idea of FF filming literally the day after Comic-Con? Hey, it's happening. I'm still on the fence of whether they meet next year's date of when it releases a few weeks, I think after Superman comes out, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah. Here's with Fantastic Four and starting filming literally the day after Comic-Con, here's one of the advantages is if 3 out of the 4 actors, because it's not really as big of a thing for the thing. If 3 out of the 4 actors appear at Comic-Con, you will kind of have a look at close to their style for the film. So you will have an opportunity to see Pedro Pascal looking closer to, it may not be full movie on, once he gets to set that day, they're going to hair and makeup him up and things like that. But you're going to see a little bit closer to, okay, this is what these actors are looking like.
Yeah, it could be. I could possibly see that. I think we've already, getting that first look. Yeah, that would be interesting to kind of see what their suits are going to be. I don't know if they're going to do anything with that outside of kind of heralding maybe some more concept art with
Yeah.
it at that point. But I don't know if they're going to do anything outside of reminding them that, hey, we're filming it. It's coming out next year. I'll still wait until we get closer to that date to actually see if it's going to happen. But yeah, no, very excited about, as we said earlier, seeing more and more that they're going to be. They already moved out there. They're getting ready to film in a month, so it should be exciting. And
Yeah.
then finally, Omari Daniels. Now that we know Marvel Studios will be at Comic-Con, what, if at all, do you think they will say at Blade? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Blade will not be mentioned in the sense of progress. I don't even think we see it. If they're going to present a new slate, it's not even on the new slate. Doesn't mean that it's canceled. Even though that is my right now official thing. Is Blade a real movie? Is Blade still a thing? Yeah, Blade's not going to be mentioned at all.
Not one bit. Unless there is a lot happening very soon, which we really do not have time for. There's no way that they mention it. You don't want that. Again, they're gonna rah-rah this thing. They're gonna go Team Marvel this thing. So you don't want that stain that has been Blade. And I say that being realistic. I want Blade to happen. I want this to come to fruition. I love Mahershala Ali. I want this to go down. But right now, with the constant director changes, the writes and rewrites, and we don't know what direction we're going with this, it is a stain on Marvel, and you don't want to shed light on that stain.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. We've definitely discussed it ad nauseum on this show the last few weeks, and yeah, we'll just have to see. But yeah, I think this is nothing negative is going to be talked about this, especially with their return after quote unquote a year break. So, but again, all excitement all around. But I want to thank you three for writing in and appreciate that. So let us get into Factor Fictions, and let me pull those up from me last week. All right. As much as I do this show, I would always say, hey, don't forget to pull this up. Don't forget to pull those up. And here we are again. One day I'll remember. All right. So from last week, Norrin Rad. Actually, these were Brent's from last week. My bad. Norrin Rad will also become a Silver Surfer in the MCU. 80% said fact, 20% said fiction. What say you with Brent's first one?
I went back and forth on this one actually. So I ended up going with fact because initially my gut said Norrin Rad will be mentioned but not shown as a Silver Surfer. But then I was like, you know what? There's no way they don't pull that trigger just for a little bit of fan service. So I went with fact.
Okay. Yeah, I was a fact with that one. At some point, it'll be in there. His second one, we will see a Fox X-Men actor, actress in Deadpool, Wolverine, possibly in just archival footage. The qualifier, and unfortunately, I put that more in the comments. At that point, Brent was trying to say that someone we have no idea of any kind of hints towards or official confirmation they're in the movie of a different cameo that we don't know at that point. So 100% said fact, but I think they were just taking it at face value of what was said. So knowing that qualifier, are we going to get a X-Men actor, actress that we haven't seen or confirmed yet at that point? Maybe just archival footage.
I said fact, and even knowing the qualifier, I have a feeling that if they are doing a universe jump type situation, if they're doing something with the TVA, that we will get a Jean Grey cameo. I'm hoping for a Jean Grey cameo.
So Famke Janison coming back, huh?
Yes,
All right.
she has stated that she's willing to do it. I want it to happen, just for that small moment of him getting a glimpse at Jean.
Hey, why not? And then finally, substantial Spider-Man 4 news will drop while Brent is gone over the next 3 weeks. 58% said fact, 42% said fiction. I don't know if that is because they want it for Brent or they want to be trolling Brent. I'm not sure how to word that one, how to read it.
I chose fact because I want to troll Brent, honestly. I
You want to
chose
break the news next week, don't you?
yes, I chose fact because I want to be able to say you left and this is what happened. Shy of massive Daredevil news, this would be the one thing that Brent would be so upset to miss. So that is why I chose fact. I mean, we got a little hint, but it hasn't been confirmed yet. So if that little hint gets confirmed, then I'm all in on this.
All right. Well, we will have to see, but yeah, as the guest, you are over fact or fiction for this week. So what do you got?
Okay, first, with Fantastic Four taking place in the 1960s, we will see a 1960s version of other Marvel heroes, meaning that we will have some allusion to either live action or maybe they're watching television or something else. But we are going to get alluded to that there are other Marvel heroes that we know about that are around in this 60s era.
So yeah, it's something I've been thinking about recently to see exactly are they the current only heroes in this supposed we're just gonna take it at face value, this alternative universe at this point. Um there is a possibility. I I'm gonna say fiction on this one. I'm gonna say that it'll just be them and no other Marvel cameos. And how hard of a fiction? I'd say about 55%. So it's not like hard dead set on it. The heart wants it, but I think in this one they really just want to have the focal point being on the Fantastic Four.
Yeah. I mean, he mentioned them being the first family, but he never said that they were the only family. So I'm hoping we get something.
Yeah, we'll have to see. What you got next?
All right, number two. With the upcoming release of Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection, we will see a new Marvel vs. Capcom 4 announced at Comic Con. I know that Marvel has been a little bit broad with their stuff that they talk about and they release at Comic Con. A lot of people were disappointed with Marvel vs. Capcom 3 Infinite. With this game, I think that this is going to be a segue with all their other releases to say, hey, here's one more bringing you in, fans. Let's take your money.
Yeah, it's this that collection is something that I'm very excited about, and stay tuned for the post credits, ladies and gents. We'll be talking about a little bit about that in a bit. Yeah, it's definitely. I did not hear too many positive things about the third one, and so I don't know. I think with Summer Games Fest and everything that had gone on the past couple of weeks at that point, I think that you're still going to be waiting a little bit on that one. So I'm going to go fiction.
All right. And
What about you? Do you think it's a fact or fiction?
I I think I've been going back and forth on this one. I think that it is a better than not chance. I'm at probably the 65 to 70% chance that a game will be mentioned. I mean, there's always a chance that they could wait for the Game Awards where a lot of games are announced, but I also know that they have so many upcoming projects that this might be a time to set a standalone project. And if you're coming right off of Marvel vs. Capcom Fighter Collection, why not capitalize on that? Why not say, hey, this just released. You want to give us some more money because pre-orders are available now. It's the perfect time to get that. And a lot of studios, when it comes to video games, shoot for those pre-order money. They want to know ahead of time what money they are getting in. So this is a perfect time to get that pre-order money in.
Okay. Yeah. All right. What's your last one?
All right, number 3. Kevin Feige will wear 3 or more. Get him 3 or more different hats during the
3.
hall.
You're
Yes,
you're you're
during the
not going more than one.
whole
You're choosing violence on
Hall
this one.
H presentation. Yes, I have a feeling that between everything that is being presented, he is going to pull a full Taylor Swift Eras tour and keep changing those outfits.
All right. Well, man, um, man, you could have gone easy and said 2. I might have bought it with 2, but you're real.
He's done 2 before. That's
That's what I.
why
Yeah, okay.
that's why I went with 3. Like he's gonna one up it. He's done
All
2
right.
on multiple occasions
Yep.
before.
Yep. I believe you on the 2. 2 is low hanging fruit, so you want to say he's going to go for a third. Okay. So let's say what these are right now. So first one probably Brave New World,
Yep.
Thunderbolts.
Yep.
So what do you think the third's going to be? If you're putting this out there, if you have to shoot your shot, what's going to be the third?
I think the third is going to be a new Fantastic Four logo.
Okay, new Fantastic Four logo.
Yes, especially with them starting filming the next day. I think by that point you've got a logo solidified. There will be a new Fantastic Four logo.
All right. I think it convinced me. So I'm a fact, not a hard fact, but I think you might get that. So we'll have to wait to hear that one. But that's not a bad one. I'm guessing you're a fact as well.
Yes, sir. I think that he is not going to miss the opportunity to hat it up. That has become his signature. That has become his thing for the people to look at and try and guess and figure out what's going on and what's next. I think him showing up with the hats is going to be his way of saying, "Hey, this is what you need to get. This is what I'm excited about. So this is what you need to get excited about." In those first 2 movies, Marvel wants us to get excited about. They want to put, to quote WCW, because again I'm a wrestling guy, they want to put butts in seats. So he's going to come with those 2 to get the people excited, and then he's going to come with the last one to give you that teaser to keep you coming back.
No, why not at that point? All right. Going back to your original one, Fact or Fiction, if Fifth of Jack was saying he's gonna say Black Panther will be the other Marvel character that could be featured in it.
So now I have to know, Fifth of Jack, are you talking T'Challa or T'Chaka? Because again, it is the 1960s.
Yep, it could be. If you're still in the chat, Fifth of Jack, it'll be rested on you. So yeah, not a bad prediction. But all right, I will post those Sunday afternoon as usual. Let your voices be heard. As we talked about last week with the conclusion of our exploration of Deadpool Kills Marvel Universe 1 and 2. Brent is out. We'll be taking a break, but with it being coming up right up on Deadpool and Wolverine, we will be Comic Book Club will be on hiatus until after that. And we'll be taking a small break from that, but it'll return shortly after Deadpool and Wolverine. Fifth Jack saying it will be the dad, so T'Chaka. So, all right. Well, again, David, thank you so much for filling in for Brent this week. As we said, let's just a reminder with the holiday, the official 4th of July holiday in America coming up, we're going to pay attention to the news. If something significant drops or Mr. Windabaum on the official Marvel podcast drops some big information at that point, we'll plan on having a show, whether it be live or not. We'll have to see exactly, since the 4th of July does fall on the Thursday. But pay attention to the socials. We'll keep you all up to date on that one. And but yeah, so and if we do have a show, David will be returning to join me again on this one. But again, thank you for coming on this week, David, and tell people how they can follow you and plug the gimmick once more.
You can follow me on all socials at The Phantom. And you can watch The Gimmick right here on the Geekverse channel. So we normally do once a month, unless there's some big news, then we do a little bit more than that. Our next show is going to be this Sunday at 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. So 9 a.m. if you are in California time. 12 noon if you're New York time, just so you can help gauge that. But yeah, so we're going to be talking Money in the Bank. We're going to be talking some other things to do with wrestling. We're going to be talking Forbidden Door. So yeah, if you are a fan of wrestling, past, present, whatever else, come stop by, have a chat with us. We always love talking wrestling with you guys. And yeah, so that's where you can find me, the Phantom, on all socials and right here on the Geekverse station with the gimmick.
All right. Check it all out. And you can follow this show at Marvel A Podcast. You can follow me personally at Chris Balga. You can follow my other show, World's Finest True Believers, at Finest Believers. World's Finest True Believers dropping. We are dropping our next new episode Sunday morning. Lisa from I Love That Movie podcast returns, and the preview for that drops. It'll be my hint right now will be a Batman book. Probably, interestingly enough, this book has yet to be chosen, and I'm kind of surprised of how long it took for someone to choose it. Definitely looking at one of Batman's greatest mistakes coming back to haunt him. So we will take a look at that. That drops Monday. It drops Sunday morning, so check that out. You can follow Brent at Brentac Prime. You can email the show at marvelalliancepodcast@gmail.com. You can follow the Geek Ultimate Alliance Network on Twitter at GUAPod Network. Feel free to tweet, email. If you want to provide feedback, DMs are open across all our socials, so reach out to us. Continue to rate and review Marvel Alliance solo feed on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, whatever platform you listen to. We greatly appreciate it. We want to thank you all for joining us live in the chat. Thank you all for listening. Stay safe out there, everyone. And as Stan the Man would say, Excelsior, true believers. All right. So, David, you proposed, I asked you this morning, any things that you are particularly jonesing to talk about for post credits, and as we kind of hinted about, talk about video games. So you said with Marvel Rivals releasing soon and Marvel vs. Capcom Fighting Collection being announced, what are some of our favorite Marvel games of past and present? Yeah, I'm like I said before, I am psyched about that collection coming out. Those are very big nostalgia playing the video games. I'm not really great at the fighting games, but what really excited me most is that it'll have the one button special final move, because that says that to me, that helps me, because doing 20 different button presses in order to get that special move, yeah, I'm down for that. But just the music, the characters, and getting Marvel versus Capcom 2, which many consider to be the best of the series of that one. I'm very excited to have that come back. So that was a day one pre-order for me.
Yeah, definitely same here. Like, I'm getting older in my age, so I'm not into the left, up, down, BA, all this other stuff to finish off a special. I'm like, give me a one button or two button, just press these at the same time. Let me hit that. I'm also at the age now where I have a 10 and an 8-year-old, and I love playing games with them, especially fighting games. And for the chance to be able to relive my nostalgia, plus my youngest son is a huge Spider-Man fan. I mean, I'm wearing this Miles Morales shirt because of him.
That is very sharp. I did notice that.
You know, he's a huge Spider-Man fan. My oldest son is a fan of the fighting games, and we just get so competitive. So having this chance to relive some of those games with my kids on the PlayStation, like, I can't ask for anything more. So that was definitely when they announced that and pre-orders went live, I was like, all right, boom, I'm getting this.
Yep, and I'm getting it on the Switch, so that way I can take it mobile with me at that point. But yeah, so the idea of the question being that some of our favorite basically kind of Marvel games. So I think let's put off to the side Spider-Man, Spider-Man 2. You know, I think we're both in agreement that that's definitely low-hanging fruit at this point. So what are some of your deep pulls from way back when?
So newer, I will go from newer to older. So
Okay.
newer is the Marvel Ultimate Alliance 1 and 2. 3 was cool, but 1 and 2 really held a special place with me. Same thing with the X-Men Legends game, because they were in the same vein. They were the same style. And I mean, those things had incredible graphics for that time. The Wolverine game that came out, that was in my opinion, revolutionary. You had Wolverine literally healing as you were playing. I mean, it was much better than the X-Men Origins Wolverine movie. The
Hmm.
game was 5,000 times better just with not only the story but with the game itself. So that was always a good game for me. Like, and going back to my childhood, I played the Spider-Man game that was on the Sega Genesis, and I also played X-Men. Was it Arcade's Revenge? Which
I can't stand that game. Can't stand it. That game frustrated me to no end.
that was
Because that
my
was like Spider-Man and X-Men Arcade's Revenge. Yep. Hmm.
Yes, that was my first experience with tossing a controller. Was that game? I remember. So my brother's 2 years older than me, and he played games, but he wasn't really into games. And he'd be in the room as I'm playing, and I would literally turn to him and tell him, "Stop breathing because your breathing is distracting me." Because I was just getting my butt whooped at this game, left and right. But it just had so many good nostalgic memories, and it has the old school, the 90s X-Men costumes. It's got that era of it. The same thing with the Spider-Man from the animated series costumes. And again, at the time, having Arcade as the villain, it wasn't someone that I was used to as a villain, wasn't the big name villain that I was used to, but the game itself and the way that they structured it was so good. And as I watched the version of X-Men 97, I had flashbacks to this game. I had
Hmm.
flashbacks to my days playing Sega Genesis. I had flashbacks to my days of being in an arcade playing X-Men games. So that was an all timer for me just because it was my first real introduction to it and my first real introduction to tossing my controller in frustration.
Yeah, some of the ones you listed there, I fully agree with. Definitely on my list. Some other ones, Maximum Carnage
Oh,
was rock
yes.
that out. Yeah, even though I didn't have a Genesis, I got some ways to play other people's with the X-Men games. So that was a lot of fun. Ultimate Alliance, yep, right there with you. Some of the other ones, I would say X-Men Mutant Apocalypse on the SNES. That was my, oh my gosh, thank goodness I can get the taste of Arcade's Revenge out of my mouth and have a good X-Men game on the Super Nintendo. I wish I could remember it. There was a Wolverine game on SNES, and I cannot remember for the life of me what it was, but that was a game that was near and dear to my heart. Trying to think of some other ones off the top of my head that weren't mentioned. Uh,
I
yeah,
think the Wolverine game was just straight up Wolverine, if I
okay.
remember correctly, because I
Hmm.
think I got that from Blockbuster way
Yeah.
back in the day.
Fifth of Jackson grew the Ultimate Alliance, X-Men Legends, Spider-Man Web of Shadows, enjoyed Spider-Man Shattered Dimensions, and to wrap it up with Spider-Man Maximum Carnage. Yep, Maximum Carnage.
Web
That
of
yes,
Shadows was a good one. Web of Shadows was
yep,
a super good one.
yep. The red cartridge. Yep, I remember the red. That's one version I had as well. Yeah, the original. What was it? Captain America and the Avengers, the one that was in the arcade, they brought over into the Super Nintendo as well. Really enjoyed playing that. Man, I'm just gonna have to break out my, break out my mini SNES and start playing those. It's making me get excited about that. But yeah, there's something about some great good old pixel art Super Nintendo Genesis versions of these games. But yeah, exciting times for gaming with Marvel. And but we might see you next week. If we don't, we'll see you in 2 weeks. If we don't see you next week, the following week will be with Mr. Snell joining us for the third week at that point. But we'll see. Hey, let's hope Mr. Winnebaum drops some good information, and we will see you next week. All right, bye bye, everyone.
I'd say.